I went to visit my friend, and his mom said something that stopped me in my tracks. You've grown so much in all the right ways. The story opens with the male narrator arriving at his childhood friend's home after several years. The house feels familiar yet slightly changed, carrying the scent of home-cooked meals and faint perfume lingering in the air. He's nervous but eager to reconnect, anticipating laughter and nostalgia. His friend's mother answers the door. She is composed, effortlessly graceful, and carries a presence that immediately commands attention without demanding it. Their first interaction is brief and casual, yet something in the air shifts, a subtle acknowledgement of a young man he's become. Introduce the audience to the initial spark between the narrator and his friend's mother. This scene should evoke curiosity, warmth, and an understated tension. It's the first moment the audience senses that there is something unspoken simmering beneath polite conversation. The emotional goal is to make viewers feel the magnetism before it's consciously realized by the characters themselves. When she opens the door, she smiles warmly, and her hand brushes lightly against his shoulder in greeting. The touch is casual but lingering just enough to send a subtle shiver down his spine. Her eyes meet his with quiet curiosity, taking in the changes in his posture, voice, and presence. He notices the faint lines around her eyes, the gentle curve of her smile, a mix of maturity and kindness that both reassures and unsettles him. As he steps inside, the soft hum of conversation from the kitchen, the aroma of freshly baked bread, and the faint scent of her perfume all mingle, creating an intimate, almost cinematic atmosphere. She tilts her head slightly as she speaks, a gesture both natural and graceful, drawing his attention to the warmth in her expression. He becomes painfully aware of the difference between who he was as a teenager and the man he is now, and the realization hits him in a quiet, unexpected way. The tension is entirely unspoken. It lives in the pauses, the brush of hands, and the way her smile seems to linger just a moment too long. The narrator experiences an internal flutter, a mix of nostalgia for childhood comfort and the sudden awareness of her allure as a woman. His heart beats a fraction faster, and he notices small details he never paid attention to before. The way her fingers curl around the doorframe, the soft inflection in her voice, the warmth in her gaze. There's an underlying hesitation on both sides. She is polite and maternal, yet her observation of him carries a subtle, unspoken acknowledgement of the man he has become. He is intrigued, cautious, and slightly mesmerized. This part sets the foundation for everything to come. The audience should feel that this is more than a casual visit. It is a moment charged with potential. Every glance, touch, and word is carefully crafted to suggest intimacy without crossing boundaries. It plants the seed of curiosity for both the narrator and the audience about how this relationship might slowly develop, blending warmth, subtle attraction, and emotional depth. Use lingering camera shots on small gestures, the hand on the shoulder, the shared smile, the tilt of her head. Include internal narration for the male character's subtle realizations. Keep pacing deliberate. Allow moments to breathe so viewers feel the tension building naturally. After the initial spark at the doorstep, the narrator and his friend's mother begin spending time together in small, everyday moments throughout the house. The atmosphere is comfortable and domestic. The smell of coffee, the hum of distant traffic outside, and the gentle clatter of dishes in the kitchen. Their interactions are casual on the surface, but beneath that lies a quiet, growing awareness of each other's presence. She notices the subtleties of his mannerisms, the way he smiles, how his voice carries a slightly deeper tone than she remembers. He, in turn, is drawn to her warmth, her grace, and the gentle confidence she exudes without effort. This part establishes the first meaningful emotional connection between them. The audience should feel the growing comfort, mutual curiosity, and unspoken tension. The goal is to make viewers sense that this is no longer just a friendly reunion. A slow-burn bond is forming, layered with subtle attraction and admiration. In the kitchen, as she hands him a plate, their fingers brush lightly. The touch is fleeting but charged, leaving a lingering warmth. He notices the softness of her skin and the reassuring firmness of her grip. Sitting across from her at the dining table, he feels the faint radiance of her presence, a gentle warmth that seems to emanate from her, making the room feel cozy and intimate. She smiles at him over the rim of her coffee cup, and the tilt of her head conveys attentiveness and subtle curiosity. Her laughter is quiet and genuine, carrying a melodic quality that makes him acutely aware of how much he enjoys being near her. When she speaks, he notices the thoughtful pauses, the slight catch in her voice when she shares a memory, and the way her eyes soften when she looks at him. He catches her brushing a stray strand of hair behind her ear, the motion simple yet graceful, and finds himself captivated by the natural elegance in everyday gestures. The tension is almost imperceptible but persistent. Fleeting touches, shared laughter, and soft glances. Moments of silence between them feel charged, as if both are aware of the shift in the dynamic but unsure how to acknowledge it. He notices how she leans slightly toward him when explaining something, her shoulder brushing his, a subconscious movement that draws him in without overt intention. She occasionally allows her hand to linger on his arm while talking, a gentle reassurance that carries more weight than the words themselves. The narrator begins to recognize the magnetic pull he feels toward her, a mix of admiration, nostalgia, and subtle romantic curiosity. He is conscious of the age difference, but finds himself more captivated by her wisdom, confidence, and quiet vulnerability than intimidated. Every gesture, every word, feels layered with meaning he hasn't quite fully interpreted yet. This part deepens the emotional intimacy and lays the groundwork for vulnerability in later scenes. The audience should feel the growing connection and sense the tension simmering beneath ordinary interactions. The small, sensory details, touch, laughter, gaze, allow viewers to experience the subtle yet undeniable chemistry. Focus on close-up shots of hands brushing, soft smiles, shared glances, and the warmth of the setting. Include gentle narration of internal thoughts, highlighting subtle realization and growing emotional awareness. Slow pacing ensures the tension builds organically, making the audience invest in the connection. By this stage, the narrator and his friend's mother have settled into a rhythm of comfortable conversation and quiet companionship. The narrator begins to notice how drawn he is to her in ways he hadn't anticipated. The bond shifts subtly. It is no longer just nostalgia or familial warmth, but a deeper, unspoken recognition of each other's presence. She shares snippets of her personal life, revealing glimpses of vulnerability, small regrets, proud moments, or quiet fears. In response, he cautiously opens up about his own life, allowing her to see the man he has grown into. Their interactions carry an unspoken acknowledgement. They're learning about each other in a way that feels intimate, even sacred. Deepen emotional intimacy and make the audience feel the character's mutual awareness of attraction. Show internal conflicts as they navigate subtle desire, respect, and the age gap, making the slow burn tension palpable. She sits across from him, her posture relaxed yet elegant, her hands occasionally gesturing to emphasize a story. Every movement is graceful, commanding attention without trying. When she laughs, it's soft and genuine. He notices the slight crinkle of her eyes, the warmth of her presence filling the room. He finds himself lingering on small details, the way her fingers curl around a mug, or the soft brush of her hair as she tucks it behind her ear. At a moment during conversation, their knees brush under the table, a simple accident that leaves them both subtly aware of the closeness. Neither pulls away immediately, and a quiet awareness of the spark passes between them. When she shares a memory that touches her emotionally, he instinctively reaches out, resting a hand lightly over hers. The touch is brief but intentional, a gesture of comfort and connection that neither of them verbalizes. The attraction grows quietly, It is less about overt gestures and more about emotional resonance. Each glance, small touch, and shared laugh compounds the tension. They start noticing each other's reactions more closely. The way her voice softens when she talks to him. The way he becomes self-conscious yet attentive in her presence. Internal hesitation is present on both sides. He wrestles with the propriety of his feelings, aware of the age gap and her role as his friend's mother, while simultaneously craving the intimacy of her attention. She, in turn, recognizes his maturity and subtle charm, and feels a quiet pull toward his sincerity and sensitivity. The narrator becomes conscious of how her presence affects him, a mix of admiration, fascination, and longing that he struggles to fully articulate. He notices his heartbeat quickening during ordinary gestures, and he finds himself replaying her words, her laughter, and the brief touches in his mind. Simultaneously, he feels the tension of moral boundaries and social propriety, making the emotional stakes higher. This part heightens the slow-burn romance by layering emotional intimacy over subtle romantic desire. It allows the audience to experience the internal conflict of the narrator while rooting for a connection that is emotionally honest, tender, and compelling. The goal is to deepen investment in the characters before the tension reaches its peak in later parts. Focus on lingering close-ups, the brush of hands, expressions of vulnerability, and quiet gestures. Narrate the internal thoughts of the male character to emphasize the slow-burn tension and emotional depth. Maintain a gentle pacing to allow viewers to feel every nuanced interaction. By this stage, the narrator and his friend's mother have spent enough time together that their awareness of each other's presence feels almost magnetic. Small gestures and shared moments begin to carry weight. During a seemingly mundane situation, perhaps helping her carry a heavy tray of groceries, reaching for a book, or accidentally bumping into each other in a hallway. The physical closeness sparks a heightened emotional response. Both are caught between the comfort of familiarity and the thrill of subtle attraction. This is the turning point where the tension moves from quiet curiosity to a palpable, internalized longing. To heighten tension and make the audience feel the characters' inner conflicts. Both the narrator and the older woman are drawn to each other, but the age gap and social boundaries create hesitation. The audience should feel the mix of desire, restraint, and emotional vulnerability. Their hands brush accidentally, perhaps while reaching for the same object, and the moment lingers just a fraction longer than it should. The narrator feels warmth radiating from her touch, and a flutter in his chest he can't ignore. Her eyes meet his, and she quickly glances away, a subtle blush coloring her cheeks. There's a momentary hesitation in the way she shifts her weight, a quiet acknowledgement of the tension between them. When he helps her lift something slightly heavy, their bodies align just close enough that he senses the curve of her waist, the light pressure of her back against his arm. The awareness is electric, yet neither speaks of it aloud. Her soft exhale, almost a sigh, and the warmth of her hand against his own hand or forearm linger in his memory, making him acutely aware of the emotional charge in the room. Tension peaks through physical proximity, lingering glances, and the unspoken understanding that something more exists beneath the surface. Every gesture, from a brush of fingers to a shared smile, carries weight. Both are hyper-aware of the effect they have on one another. The narrator struggles internally. The mix of desire and hesitation, the thrill of closeness, and the ethical boundaries of being attracted to a friend's mother create a storm of emotions he cannot yet verbalize. She, too, experiences a quiet internal conflict. The awareness of his growth, maturity, and sincerity makes the attraction more pronounced, yet her maternal role and social propriety keep her cautious. The narrator begins to understand the depth of his feelings. Each accidental touch, glance, and pause amplifies the awareness of desire and admiration he harbors. He is caught between the comfort of their growing bond and the subtle, thrilling tension that comes with emotional intimacy. Likewise, she notices the changes in him, his confidence, attentiveness, and emotional depth, and feels a tug of curiosity and attraction she cannot easily dismiss. This part serves as the emotional turning point, raising stakes and making the audience feel the subtle, almost forbidden attraction. It balances longing with restraint, showing how close they are to acknowledging feelings without crossing boundaries. It sets the stage for the emotional breakthrough that will come in Part 5, ensuring that the slow burn romance continues to grip viewers. Use lingering camera shots on fleeting touches, shifts in posture, and the tension in shared silences. Internal narration is key here. Highlight the fluttering heartbeat, the catch in her voice, and the unspoken longing. Slow, deliberate pacing ensures the audience feels every nuanced, tension-filled moment. The narrator and his friend's mother reach a moment of quiet, intentional connection. Perhaps it's during a late afternoon in the living room, soft light filtering through the curtains, or while sharing a drink on the porch as the sun sets. The atmosphere feels suspended, private, and intimate. She turns to him with a gentle, knowing expression and says the line that carries layered meaning. "You've grown so much in all the right ways." This statement is simple but potent, acknowledging not only his physical and emotional growth, but also the subtle attraction and mutual recognition that has been building between them. This scene serves as the emotional breakthrough, a moment of clarity where feelings are acknowledged without crossing boundaries. The audience should feel a mixture of relief, warmth, and the thrill of subtle romantic tension being openly recognized. It's the turning point where the bond moves from quiet curiosity to emotional intimacy with mutual understanding. She leans slightly closer than usual, her eyes steady on his face, conveying both admiration and subtle affection. Her hand rests lightly on his arm as she speaks, the touch warm and reassuring, a gesture of emotional closeness that lingers just enough to make his chest tighten. He feels a sudden awareness of every detail, the soft cadence of her voice, the faint perfume she wears, and the quiet gravity in her gaze. A moment of shared silence follows her words, filled with unspoken understanding. He senses her heartbeat subtly as she moves closer, and the proximity amplifies the fluttering in his own chest. The line carries dual meaning: admiration for the man he's become and a quiet acknowledgement of the magnetic connection between them. Their eyes meet and hold a beat longer than usual, letting the tension simmer without words. He is caught between the thrill of recognition and the weight of propriety. The age difference, her role as his friend's mother, and the societal boundaries all amplify the intensity of the moment. She shows a flicker of vulnerability too, revealing through body language and voice that she notices him not just as her friend's grown-up companion, but as a man she is quietly drawn to. The narrator experiences a rush of emotions: admiration, attraction, gratitude, and a little hesitation. For the first time, he consciously acknowledges the depth of his feelings and the magnetic pull toward her. It is thrilling and confusing, but also tender, filled with the recognition of emotional intimacy that has grown naturally over time. He realizes that their connection is no longer subtle. It is profound, though still safe, unspoken, and emotionally honest. This part is the emotional apex of the slow burn arc. It solidifies the bond between the characters, confirming their mutual awareness and attraction while keeping the tension nuanced and YouTube safe. The audience feels the emotional payoff of prior buildup and anticipates the warmth and intimacy of the coming resolution. Focus on medium close-ups to capture the subtlety of expressions: a slight tilt of the head, a soft smile, a lingering touch. Include internal narration to express the narrator's emotional surge and reflective hesitation. Maintain slow pacing, letting the weight of her words resonate fully before moving to subsequent interactions. Following the emotional breakthrough of Part 5, the narrator and his friend's mother enter a phase of comfortable, deliberate closeness. Their interactions are no longer charged with tentative hesitation, but carry a gentle, reassuring warmth. Small, intimate moments, sharing a quiet cup of tea, sitting near each other on the couch, or walking together in the garden, allow the audience to feel the safety and depth of their bond. The relationship is no longer just tension-filled attraction. It has evolved into genuine emotional intimacy to convey warmth, connection, and the satisfaction of mutual understanding. The audience should feel that the characters are emotionally home with each other, while subtle romantic tension persists in a comforting rather than anxious way. This stage emphasizes shared laughter, understanding, and trust. Sitting together on the couch, their knees brush lightly, a small touch that feels natural and reassuring. Neither flinches. Instead, it brings a quiet awareness of each other's presence. She rests a hand on his forearm as she explains a story, the warmth of her touch lingering, gentle but deliberate. He notices the softness of her skin, the subtle perfume that seems to envelop her, and the calming rhythm of her breathing. During conversation, her gaze lingers slightly longer than necessary, not out of flirtation alone, but from comfort and genuine engagement. He feels seen, understood, and quietly cherished. When they laugh together, it's easy and unself-conscious, a shared humor that underscores emotional closeness. Their voices harmonize in the quiet of the room, blending naturally into the background ambience of the home. The tension is now gentle, comforting, and emotionally rich rather than fraught. Small touches, glances, and proximity are enough to keep the romance alive without overt declaration. Moments of silent connection, shared looks, the brush of a hand, or leaning slightly toward one another, create an ongoing awareness of mutual attraction. Their conversations carry depth. She occasionally shares personal thoughts or memories, and he reciprocates, reinforcing emotional intimacy and trust. The narrator feels a sense of serenity and belonging in her presence. His earlier hesitations have softened into admiration, comfort, and a quiet desire to remain close. He notices her subtle gestures, the curl of her fingers when she gestures, the warmth in her smile, the way she inclines her head slightly when listening, and find himself captivated not just by attraction, but by genuine human connection. She, too, senses the emotional bond and responds with natural warmth, her earlier hesitation replaced with quiet acceptance of the closeness they share. This part allows the audience to breathe after the emotional peak of Part 5. It highlights the comfort and ease that comes from mutual understanding and trust, while sustaining the slow-burn romantic tension. By showing natural, YouTube-safe moments of affection, touching arms, shared laughter, lingering glances, viewers experience a satisfying progression from curiosity and tension to intimacy and emotional connection. Use soft lighting and cozy settings to visually reinforce warmth. Capture lingering gestures, subtle touches, and gentle smiles. Internal narration can emphasize the calm joy and reflective admiration the narrator feels, allowing viewers to sense the emotional resonance of these small, meaningful moments. Slow pacing is key. Let the audience feel the comfort and connection as if they are sitting with the characters themselves. After the comfort and closeness of Part 6, the narrator and his friend's mother reach a stage where their emotional connection feels complete, balanced, and deeply satisfying. There is no rush, no explicit crossing of lines, only mutual understanding, trust, and subtle acknowledgement of their unique bond. Perhaps it's the end of the day, with golden light streaming through the window or the quiet of the evening settling over the house. They share moments that are tender, gentle, and YouTube-safe. A lingering hug goodbye, a shared look that communicates everything words cannot, or a small gesture that leaves both feeling deeply connected, to give the audience a fully satisfying payoff for the slow-burn romance. The story resolves with warmth, emotional intimacy, and lingering romantic tension that feels natural and believable. Viewers should leave with the sense that this relationship has depth, mutual respect, and the potential for continued closeness. As he prepares to leave, she steps forward and wraps her arms around him in a slow, comforting hug. Her cheek brushes lightly against his shoulder, her warmth pressing softly against him, and he feels her heartbeat in a quiet rhythm that mirrors his own. He lingers just slightly longer than necessary in the hug, sensing her subtle pressure, her calm presence, and the gentle reassurance of her touch. There is no awkwardness, only a natural acknowledgement of their connection. Their eyes meet after the hug, holding a gaze that is both playful and serious, communicating gratitude, admiration, and a quiet, unspoken acknowledgement of desire. Even in simple gestures, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face, adjusting a jacket, or a shared smile, there's a lingering awareness of intimacy that has been built over time. The tension has transformed from uncertainty to tender anticipation. It's no longer about hesitation, but about savoring the emotional closeness they've cultivated. Subtle physical cues, lingering touches, gentle proximity, and the warmth of shared spaces maintain the romantic undertone while remaining YouTube appropriate. Both characters experience a quiet satisfaction, understanding the depth of their bond without needing to define it verbally. The age gap and social context remain acknowledged internally, but it no longer hinders their emotional connection. The narrator walks away with a lingering sense of her presence, replaying the warmth, smiles, and gentle touches in his mind. He feels seen, appreciated, and quietly exhilarated by the emotional intimacy they share. For her part, she feels a similar sense of fulfillment, admiration for his growth, joy in their shared moments, and subtle acknowledgement of attraction without needing to act on it overtly. Their connection is emotionally complete, rich with affection, and satisfies the slow burn arc in a way that feels authentic and grounded. This part brings closure to the story while leaving the audience with a warm, lingering emotional afterglow. It resolves the tension built across parts 1 to 6 in a subtle, human way. By focusing on small, meaningful gestures, lingering glances, and gentle touches, the story delivers the payoff of the slow burn romance: intimacy, trust, and mutual admiration. Use wide, warm lighting for the final scene to emphasize comfort and emotional intimacy. Close-ups of hands, lingering smiles, and soft eye contact reinforce the bond visually. Narrate the internal reflections of the male character to provide emotional closure and ensure viewers feel the full weight of the connection. Slow pacing and lingering shots allow the audience to savor the resolution organically.